We had people like Jesse Owens and Harrison Dillard and all types of people coming. So I started running, back in the 60s, they used to have the Model Cities program where federal monies trickled right down to the states and the cities, and all the kid had to do was to get to the park. And I lived right on the edge of the park. And, we had a swimming pool, tennis courts, baseball diamonds, swings, everything. And there was a coach from Dunbar High School. We also had a track team called the Utopian International, and it was a kids team. And we used to go from Dayton to Cincinnati on Tuesday nights. And for 50 cents an event, the fee was 50 cents. My mom would give me like $2. And we'd take the bus down in the afternoon and come back later that night. And just started running. Just started jumping in different events. I did everything from long jump to triple jump, high jump. But I was a small kid, so I wasn't really good at the sprinters because a lot of the kids in my age group were bigger than me. And when I got to high school, my freshman year in high school, I was out for the team, and everybody wanted to run the 100 and the 200, and I couldn't beat those guys. So the coach said, okay, try the 440. And I think the first time I ran a 56.4. First time I ever tried it. And I knocked off about 5 seconds by the time I entered high school. My best was only 51.3. I was not recruitable coming out of high school, but just in the city league, kiddie sport. And at the end of the day, I would say what made me stand out is that I stayed in track longer than people that were much, much better than me. And I didn't mind training. And so when I went to high school, I had a cross-country coach was the head track coach. And I learned a little bit about interval training. We had like a 300-yard outdoor dirt cinder track and running intervals against guys who were bigger than me. And at the beginning of the workout, I'd always be back because you know how it is in the first couple of stints. Everybody wants to tear out and see who's going to be first. But by the time we got to the end of the workout, week after week after week, the little kid was, pulling up on the big guys in the front. So I learned how to be patient in interval training. And eventually I started, being one of the top runners by my second year. So I just stuck with track. I just loved it. I loved the competitive part of it. I got kicked off of the sophomore football team for making a hard hit on a guy. And I threw down my helmet one day and told the coach I effing quit. And went straight into track and field for the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. So
that's great.
That was a blessing for me to get kicked off the football team, actually.
Yeah. Were there any other sports you were interested in and never got to do, or just kind of just stayed with track?
I played basketball in the 7th and 8th grade. I never made the team in high school because I could dunk when my sophomore year. I was like 5'8". I could dunk the basketball. So I had springs. I could get my elbow up to the rim. I mean, I could jump that high. So I had a great spring, but I could never make the team because of my size and preferential treatment. But I did my freshman year in high school. I did gymnastics. I was on the gymnastics team, played freshman football, and then ran track. So I did gymnastics for about two years. And I went strictly into track and field.
What's Ruck?
Yeah, I got a question. Coach Richardson, you may want to share the story, but I understand that you and Edwin met many, many years ago. And I'm wondering, when you guys met and you raced against him, I believe, maybe you beat him a couple times. Maybe that's the reason why he got into track and field. Tell me the story, Coach Richardson, and share it with Edwin.
He knows the story. He used to come to Sacramento, and the street that I grew up on, he was, visiting someone, and he saw these kids out in the street. And so, he's a competitor, as you heard him say.
Mm-hmm.
He come out there and play around with us and race us and stuff. And as the story goes, we find out later on we were racing against Edwin Moses and had no idea.
Yeah.
So when we spoke earlier this last week, I let him know I was one of those kids that he was racing in the street with.
That was a really, really pleasant surprise to me. I had a really pretty girlfriend in Sacramento. That's the backstory.
Yeah. Yeah.
Greg was a friend of the family, and so yeah, I remember that day. I do remember that day. I remember that motorcycle. Uh, uh, Brother had the motorcycle, and everybody wanted to ride it, and I got on it, and I couldn't hold it up, and it started to roll over, and I got my leg out from under it before I got burned by the exhaust pipe, and I said I'll never ever get on a motorcycle in my life again.
Yeah. 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 That was a great moment, and I never thought I would get a chance to see you or talk to you again since then. Um, but I got a question about your upbringing a little bit. I know your father was a Tuskegee Airman. How did that influence your competitiveness that you had in track?
Well, my father was not only a Tuskegee Airman, but he was a scientist, which is the reason I went into science from reading, his books on biology and chemistry and botany and organic chemistry. When I was like sixth, seventh grade, I was reading these books. I didn't know what it meant. I couldn't decipher the language, but nonetheless, I was very interested in science. And he was also an elementary school principal. So he was very, very disciplined. And he was a mentor to a lot of guys who became college presidents. He was well before his time. It wasn't possible within his lifetime in the late 60s and 70s. That really wasn't happening for many African American men unless you were at an HBCU. But he got guys to get PhDs and go on to become college presidents. And Arthur Thomas at Central State was his assistant principal. He was the president of Central State University, and Morgan State was one of my father's mentees. So, all the disciplinary things that a father's gonna give, plus the military aspect of it. Expectations for high grades was a requirement. If I got two C's, I wasn't able to go to intramural practice or hang out with the boys or nothing like that. So homework was very necessary, and so I got a really good grounding on academics and discipline. So that was a huge plus. My father they never honored the Tuskegee Airmen before he passed away in 1983. So it wasn't really a big thing. He talked about it. We used to watch airplanes and go to air shows, things like that, and he used to tell us all the stories, but it wasn't a big thing. Those men weren't celebrated the way that they are now. And I think that, there's only a few left, if there's any left now.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, Coach Ruck, you got a question?
Yeah, I just want to comment on the Tuskegee Airmen, Edwin, with your father. Coach Richardson and I, we live in South Jersey, and close to us is Fort Dix and McGuire Air Force Base. And in the Willingboro area, where both Gerald and I used to live at, we had a number of Tuskegee Airmen that retired in the area, and I knew a couple of those guys.
Yeah.
And it was quite an honor to know them. And then both Gerald and I'm an Army brat. My dad served 24 years, and he was a Buffalo soldier.
Okay.
So, yeah, I can relate to some of those things, because when he joined the service in, let me think about it, 1946, it was segregated.
Right, exactly.
And when my dad fought in the Korean War in 51, he fought with the Buffalo soldiers in a segregated outfit.
Right.
And then, my dad ended up retiring in 1970. And of course, the military changed. But as you mentioned, your dad, I learned a lot, from my dad in terms of discipline and, just doing the right thing and really pushing yourself. Yeah. And, I appreciate, those things that we learn from our fathers. Yeah. Now, I do have a question about the fact you were reading the science books. And so that's how you got into the physics?
Yeah.
What did you like about physics? I mean, that's a tough one. Matter of fact, I avoided physics in high school and college.
Yeah, I was like the Urkel, the total nerd in high school. For example, in elementary school, I was a kid. I had insect collections. I dissected frogs. I collected fossils. I made volcanoes and made them explode. We used to launch model rockets back in about the 7th, 8th grade. We had a rocket club in neighborhood because we lived at the edge of the park and it was a lot of, open ground down there. So we used to launch the rockets out of my backyard. And so I just had a natural affinity towards science because I was reading those books. When I was in high school, I took I think it was 69, the first, one of the first high school computer science classes ever held in the country because of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base having a terminal. And we had a terminal, one of the two terminals at our high school. And so we used to write programs. So I took computer science, 5 years of math, 2 years of biology, 2 years of chemistry, and 1 year of physics in high school. And I went to Central State between my junior and senior year, and actually took organic chemistry in an upward bound program with a bunch of talented kids from all over the state. So I was total scientist all the way. And when I went to Morehouse, I was not recruitable because my best coming out of my senior year, I won a couple of big track meets. I won the Ohio relays, the triple jump. I was only like 5'7", $117. I jumped 45, 1.5 back then, and won that track meet. And I won the high hurdles at the Dayton relays. But my best, and I got injured the same night, so I never really improved that year. I probably would have been mid-14 on a dirt track back then. So,
Oh yeah.
So I never really improved. So my best coming out of high school was 15.1 for the highs and 51.3 for the quarter. So I was not a recruitable athlete. I went strictly on an academic scholarship to Morehouse. And Morehouse had no track. We had no track, no stadium. I jumped fences the entire time, breaking into tracks and jumping fences the entire time I was in college, all the way through the Montreal Olympics and the 2 years after that, up until 78 when I graduated. So I just loved the sport that much that I was willing to find the facilities. Even when our coach quit, we had a absence of a coach for like probably 8 or 10 weeks right in the middle of the track season. But all the guys, we were still working out. We had a cross-country course, golf course that we went to. We went to the tracks. We had carpooled every day. So I just love the sport of track and field. I guess they used the basketball Jones guys, the guys that walk around with a basketball going from park to park and playing three-man and pick up and all that. I was what they call a spike head. I just had my shoes, trying to find a place to run cross country. Wherever I was, I'd find somewhere to run in the grass. So I just loved the sport of track and field, and going from like a 15.1 to a 14.6 my freshman year, and then my sophomore year in college, I went from 14.6 down to like 14 flat, 13.9. Then my junior year, I was down to like 13.7. And in the quarter, I went from 50 in high school, 51.3. My first year, I was running like 49.2 in college. Then the next year, I'm running like 48 flat. And then the following year was when I started running 400 hurdles. I started, my first race was like 50.1, but I was running like 45 legs by my sophomore year in college. I improved like 5 or 6 seconds in 2 years. And I also physically grew. I went from probably 5'9", 5'10", maybe 135 pounds. And 2 years later, I was like 6'1.5", 6'2", and 160. So I grew. I did all my physical growing in high school, and I knew how to train, and my training and my growth kind of tracked each other, sort of like a racehorse. They're good the second and third year. After the fourth year, they don't race them anymore. So I just grew up in a time where physically I grew. I was in the right atmosphere, being at Morehouse with a bunch of academics. I was doing my physics and really hustling out on the track. So that was the equation for me. I was completely unrecruitable out of high school. No one, not even a junior college, no one would ever look at me.
That's amazing. Coach Tate, you got a question?
Yeah, I have a few questions. One, Olympic year in 76, you ran at Florida Relays, you ran 50.1. In the Olympic Games, you broke the world record, 48.63. How did you go from 50.1 into March to
47.60.
47.63? I'm sorry. And how did you go from 50.1 to 47.63 in a matter of, 6 weeks or something like that.
Well, the
Yeah.
year before I won the conference meet at the SIAC. I ran 47.5 in the court. I won the highs. I think I ran about 13.9 and 47.5. And so I knew that I was good. The next year, my goal was to maybe make the Olympic trials, the qualifying standards. That was my goal. I think it was 46.4 in the quarter and 50 point 50.8 or something like that in the 400 hurdles. So when I came out that year, I think I might have run a couple of races indoors, but I came out really, really hard. And Florida Relays was probably our third or fourth meet, mid-March. And that Saturday morning, I think the Friday evening, I ran the 440, and my coach he fudged the times and got me in the fast heat. And
Of course, what track coach doesn't fudge times?
Yeah, right.
he knew I was good, and we only had a certain number of meets, and Florida Relays had electronic timing. You had to have that in order to qualify. That was like the first year with it. They met mandatory automatic timing, no more hand times. So he threw me in the quarter, and I ran 46.1. So my PR went from 47.5 to 46.1 at the beginning of the season. And then the following morning, and I ran the high hurdles too. I forget what I ran. I probably ran like a 13.9 or something in the highs. And then later on in the afternoon, they ran the 400 hurdles, and I ran 50.1. So I qualified in 3 events in that one track meet, all for the Olympic trials. So I trained every summer. I used to live up in Philly and had a work-study job in Philly between my freshman and sophomore junior years. So when the season was over, I would go up there. There was a guy named Tony Hinton that was coaching the Philadelphia Hawks, and he was the father of one of my Morehouse buddies. So I used to live with them, go to Franklin Field. So I would be in condition all summer long. Then when I got back, my job was over, like from beginning of June through end of July, go home for a couple of weeks, go back to school in August. I'd be running up and down the hills, hitting the cross-country course and going to the track even, before track season started. We didn't wait until January, February, March. We were going out to the track in October, November and doing thousands and 600s, 300s, 500s. And so I just stayed on the case. I was not playing. Once I caught up with these guys who always used to beat me, and throughout my whole career, I can honestly say that once I caught you from behind, and most of these guys, everyone was better than me. I never won. I always lost. But once I started winning and getting close, I made up my mind. I'm going back. I'm going to train. And almost throughout my whole career, once I beat you, that was it. Once I beat you in almost anything, that was it. And so that was my impetus and my momentum, and I was able to keep that up until the day I retired. I never got beat by the same person twice in the 400 hurdles.
Oh my God!
I literally tracked everyone down from behind. Even in CCU, my freshman year, they had Julius Sang, Robert Ukul, Melvin Bassett on the relay, and they were. I mean, two of those guys were on the Olympic gold medal relay in 1972 for Kenya. Dr. Walker had the best team. That was when we were all in this SIAC conference, and so just even though Morehouse, I mean, we were like a 320, 325 team. We had guys who were struggling to break 50 flat. So even if I got to stick 50 yards behind, when I finished, I'd be 42 yards behind, even to win.
Right.
I learned. I chased people down that were much better than me, even if we didn't have a chance of winning the race. But I was training, and I took it very, very seriously. I was catching people all the time. That's how I got in that kind of shape.
Well, the other question, Edwin, is I understand that you
audio went out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we lost Coach Tate. Go ahead, and then when he gets back, we'll get him back in.
Okay. Yeah. So Yeah, you back,
Oh,
Coach Tate?
okay. Yeah. I said
Yeah.
you ran against North Carolina Central guys, Larry Black and Uku and Sang, but what impact did Dr. Walker have on your hurdle progress, if any?
Dr. Walker was at the Florida Relays when I qualified for all those three events. And because we were in the SIAC, we saw NCCU like 5, 6, 7 times a year at all the major relays. And that was the first time Morehouse had ever gone to the Florida Relays. It just wasn't in our budget. But the Coach Jackson at the time said, told the athletic director, we got to get to a meet where Moses can run and I can put him in some races. But Coach Walker was there. He saw me run the 50.1. He saw me run the 46.1. And he saw me run the high hurdles. And he evaluated all my events and told me that he thought I should focus on the 400 hurdles. And he gave me a bunch of workouts, too, that his guys were doing. So he was very critical. We wrote down the workouts that he was giving us and put those into effect like the following Monday. I started doing 1,000s, 600s, and breakdowns, running like a 400 and 60 seconds, and then running all out over the last 5 hurdles. That was one of the workouts that he developed and gave to me. And doing the same thing at over 400 meters, running a controlled 200 in like 30 seconds, and then running the last 5 hurdles. So I was in tip-top condition. Conditioning, I was never, ever out of condition. I was in much better condition than probably anybody out there, under 1,500 meters. I was in the condition of a 1,500-meter guy running 400 hurdles. I definitely could have easily run the 800 meters, but I didn't want to disturb what I was doing in the hurdles. And I could have run a good 400 flat. I thought I could have run under 44 back then. Had I taken like 6 or 8 weeks to completely concentrate on the 400 hurdles and change my mechanics and not have to worry about changing my center of gravity to go over the hurdles. I was always afraid to get injured because of the stride changes in stride pattern, changes in your body mechanics and your lean. So that's why I never ran the 400, because I wanted to just excel in the one event, and I definitely didn't want to get injured.
Okay, Edwin, can you talk about your mechanics and your stride pattern? There might be some listeners that may not understand totally what you're talking about, and how you were able to perfect the event to make it personal for yourself.
I think the biggest factor is that I never had anybody to teach me to run hurdles. And what happened in high school, there was we had a pretty good shuttle hurdle relay team. We had 3 or 4 good hurdlers at our high school all the time. No one was at the top, but in an event like that, you don't need the top 3 hurdlers in order to win that event. You got 2 or 3 guys that are average, one's above average, and 2 are average, and you have one guy who's just can make it. Then you can score some points in that event. So there was a guy that broke his arm. He was playing basketball, broke his arm, and he was one of the hurdlers. He was a senior. He was actually the best hurdler out there, and he got hurt. So the coach came out and said, I need someone to start running hurdles so we can, at the Dayton relays, we can have the shuttle hurdle relay. No one raised their hand except me. And the coach didn't know much about hurdles. He said, basically, you just take off, I don't know if it's your right or your left. He didn't know, he couldn't instruct me on anything. He said, basically take off on your favorite leg, which I assume it would be, if I was a long jumper, I took off on that leg, and just go over the hurdle. So I had that funky rhythm at the beginning, that funny 3-step, dun 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 dun. Started like that, and just enjoyed it, being on the shuttle hurdle relay team, getting in the varsity meets, and that was my probably freshman year. So yeah, I just taught myself over 3 years. And also being able to watch, because Rod Milburn was the king back then. I knew about Willie Davenport, Rod Milburn. They had Larry Shipp, Charles Foster. Those are the guys that I really, really concentrated on. Really didn't pay too much attention to the guys out on the West Coast, the UCLA guys and all that. Rod Milburn and Willie Davenport were my heroes. And then I had a chance to see and run against Staff, Charles Foster, Larry Shipp, Greg Coleman, who was down at Jerry Hill, was still running at that time. I think it's 73, 74. He was still running. He was at the Olympic trials, I think, in 76. So I just started watching those guys all the time. And one of my classmates, another physicist, was the state champion in high school, a guy named Steve Price, who went to Warrensville. He was the state champion, so I learned a lot from him. And so we were working out together all the time, and he taught me the finer details of running hurdles. And we're still buddies today. So that's how I got into it. I started from nothing.
Okay. And that's a remarkable story. But I know with your science background and in physics, how did you use that to your advantage to become the elite hurdler that you became over your period of time in your career?
I think when it comes to the 400 hurdles and the 13 steps, that was really the key. And because I ran a lot of cross country, I did a lot of hill work, up and down hill. The cross country course was just like a rolling golf course. I think we had like a 3.1 mile course. Then we had this like hill that was about 180 yards, really steep. And we had another grade that we used to run up. Just having the power and being a good quarter miler. And I had long legs and a long stride. You know, I was a skinny guy, so I was like biting in and pushing off really, really hard. So when it came to the 400 hurdles, I knew just from studying physics, I knew that my left leg was definitely going to be my lead leg. In fact, I used to be a right leg hurdler in high school until I got injured, and then I switched to the left. So I switched my whole thing. I don't know how that happened, but I was able to do it. I had a right hamstring problem, so I couldn't stretch that leg out. So I started jumping off the right leg and leading with the left. So that was really perfect for running 400 hurdles because you want to stay close to the line. And 13 steps was really just my natural stride. The first time I ever ran it, I was running 13 steps. You know, I think I probably ran 14 for a while, but then I figured as I got better and as I got stronger, more accustomed to the event, 14 in training. But in the races, once I got into the race and everything picked up, I was able to run 13 steps. And
so for some of our listeners, what's the advantage or disadvantage of running a odd step or even step in a 400 hurdle race?
If you run an odd step, you use the same leg to hurdle. I'm a left leg lead hurdler. So if I run 14, that means the next time I get to the hurdle, I'm going to go right, left, because we don't count the first step coming down. Your touchdown leg, you don't count that. You count the following step in the numbers. So you come down on your left leg. When you get to 13, you're going to take off on your left leg. And I was very efficient at that. I had the power from the 6th, 7th hurdle all the way through. I was able to maintain that because I ran a lot of cross country, did a lot of thousands, 600s, 500s, and that work, 600s with hurdles, 200 over hurdles, 400 with 200 over hurdles. So I was always in tip-top condition. And so the 13 steps never went away. It never went away. I can maintain it. Where other guys, once they get to about that 6th or 7th step, they say, oops, don't think I'm going to make it. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. And I just powered right into it. I just ran knowing that I'd make it.
The $1 million question, I know everyone probably wants to know, because you may mention to it that you could easily run the 800 if you wanted to, but you didn't want to mess with your stride pattern in the 400 hurdles. In your mind, which race do you believe to be the most difficult? 400 hurdles or 8?
I think the 400 hurdles, because there's just a whole lot of things that can go wrong. 800 is basically conditioning. I mean, even back then, they wanted me to run against Alberto Juan Torino in the 800. And when Skeets came around, they wanted me. I did run the high hurdles against Skeets a couple of times, and the current world record holder. I was ranked number 2 in the world. Number 4 in the world in 1979. I ran like 3 big races. I beat a guy named Alexander Casanas, who was the world record holder from Cuba. I beat him twice, once in Jamaica and once in Zurich. And in Zurich, I was second only to Skeets in the high hurdles that year. So I knew that I could run the high. And I wasn't even training for that event. I was just like throwing it in, 1 or 2 days a week. I wasn't focusing on it. 800, Juan Torino, his world record was, he ran in Montreal 143.9 or 8, something like that. I knew I knew I was a 140 flat guy back then with
Okay.
training. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I just didn't want to, I just sacrificed my hurdles races to run the 800.
Absolutely.
I definitely done it. Yeah. I chose not to.
Yeah. I have to agree. I think the 400 hurdles is probably the most difficult race on the track.
There's a lot that can go wrong. There's 10 hurdles times 3, takeoff, clearing the hurdle, touchdown. That's your start. And so that's what, 31 places you can mess up. That's really what it comes down. In order to run those really fast times, you have to minimize. You're going to make errors. You're never going to hit the exact 100% takeoff point each and every time. You might come up short. You might go a little bit long. And your job is to regulate all that. And that's the only way you can run these fast times. They're running a lot faster now, I think, because of the shoes. I don't think there's any real difference in what I could have done with those same shoes versus what they're doing today.
The technology has changed and made performances a lot greater. And let's talk about your streak, that 10-year streak. What was your mindset during that time period? I mean, I know when we step on the track, you never want to lose, but how did you do it? How did you go 10 years without getting beat?
In 1976, between the time that I won, I ran 50.1 and qualified for the trials. I dropped 2.5 seconds, going down to 47.6. That's 2.5 seconds in like 4 months. I trained hard. I'd be so focused and concentrated on the way to practice. I'd have tears coming out of my eyes because I knew the track was one of these Resolite black tarry tracks. I had shoes. My feet were burning up every day. I mean, I was running out of shoes. They had holes in them and all that. And I went out there every day and really threw down like every day. Every day was more difficult than the next. Whatever I did today, it's going to be rough out there tomorrow. So I just had this mindset that I wasn't afraid to go out and hurt and do what needed to be done. I was not afraid of the pain. In fact, I relished it because I always saw the other side of the rainbow. That if I do these workouts and keep from getting injured, these guys can't beat me because they can't train as efficiently and as hard as I did. I was convinced that my training program was better than everyone's, and I did more work than everyone. And technically, I think I was a better high hurdler. I was a very good sprinter. I was running 20.3s in practice, over 200, but no one ever saw it. They didn't think that I had that kind of speed. But I was doing that in practice. I do a series of 200s in practice. I do 21.1, 20.9, 20.7, 20.3, 20.3 in practice. Really hard. 300, doing all kinds of 500s, all kinds, going through the quarter in like 48, and then doing that last 100, finishing like in 57, 58 seconds. I was not playing around.
So what I hear you saying, you outworked everyone during that time period.
Yeah, and so I was convinced that I was going to win. I was convinced that I would have to actually make a bunch of boo-boos in a row, trip over a hurdle. It had to be a catastrophe for me not to lose because I had everything covered. And I was really focused and concentrated on my race. I studied the race. I studied the 400. I studied my competitors. I knew every race that they ran, what kind of times, when they ran them, if they could sustain, a lot of fast running. I knew all of that about all my competitors. So I probably knew more about them and their potential than they did. And I had all this information stored in my head. So when I went onto the track, I just felt like I was unbeatable.
Right.
I absolutely, from the beginning of my career to the end, even when I lost the race to Harold Smith in 77 and Danny Harris in 87 and Andre Phillips in 88. Those are the only three guys that beat me, other than the time I fell in Paris. You know, Mhm. Fell in a couple of other meets and placed second my first meet, and little catastrophe place fell down at the AAU meet in '77. In '76, right before the Olympic trials, I hit a hurdle and finished fourth, but I still ran 48.9. And then that's when I broke the American record at the Olympic trials 2 weeks later. So I never got beat by the same person more than once.
Edwin, I got a question for you. When you were running these workouts, the 500s, the 600s, thousands, who was designing these workouts? Or did you come up with your own ideas, about running these workouts? Or
Yep, yeah. I went to the library at Georgia Tech and got books.
oh,
Some of them were in German.
right,
I was taking German class, so some of them were like for each
my God,
physiology books. They had some books over there about the guys that were training Juan Torino, that were East German coaches. Some of the earlier publications that I could find. Reading track and field news, finding research papers. Dr. Walker helped a tremendous amount because he gave me the basic core philosophy of
hmm
what I needed to do. That's why I started running thousands and 600s, because I was running cross country. He said, if you're doing all that, you need to do these kind of workouts and develop power and endurance. And then I started doing the 500s, 300s, 200s. I would just mix it up. So other than the 2 years at Morehouse when we had Coach Jackson out there, I knew pretty much what I wanted to do, and we would just modify things a little bit, and he would hold the
hmm
watch, record the times and all that. But after I finished Morehouse in '78, then it was all on me. I did a lot of modifications. Most of the time, I was the only one out at the track, with the Casio stopwatch, hitting the button, writing, stopping and starting, writing it down, doing all that. That's why I started writing everything down, because I really wanted to know what kind of improvement that I was making in training, because I knew what kind of condition I was. If I knew, for example, at UC Irvine, I had a workout where I would do 8 800s, 3 minutes apart, and it was a grass
eight,
field,
800
3 minutes apart. They didn't have
with
to.
a 3 minute rest.
Yep, they didn't have to be fast. I'd start out
Oh, okay, all right, but still though,
at the beginning of the season. It started out like 240, 230, but at the end of the season, I'm rolling through those things like 2 minutes flat every 3 minutes. It was a grass field. I had on spikes, just like running on a golf course. And that's why I was in tip-top shape in terms of cardiovascular, anaerobic training. You don't have to do them fast at all. It's the endurance to be able to do that. And I also kept records of the heartbeat. I had a heartbeat monitor, so I could see the peaks and the valleys of the heart monitor. I would go from like 220 down to 130 in 3 minutes, 120, sometimes 115. It would drop that dramatically
Wow.
because I was just in that kind of shape. And as I said, I started really slow. Take me about a month to really get going. But then after about that second month of doing that, then your cardiovascular system just kicks in. Then you're able to finish the whole workout.
so you use your scientific approach not only to hurdling but just simply to training. That's what it sounds
Yeah,
like to me.
but yeah,
Yeah.
we had guys on the team that are now medical doctors,
Mhm.
surgeons. They were studying physiology. They taught me about the Krebs cycle and the ATP and the sugar. We were going over material like that. They were learning it at the biochemistry level and explaining how that went. And then when I saw that, because I took chemistry, I said, "Oh wow!" So
Mhm.
you could, and that's when I thought you can begin to manipulate and train these kinds of systems. Once I figured out where the energy was coming from, because if you go out there track, you think it's all about oxygen, but it's about cardiovascular capacity, eating the right types of things, having your carbo reserves set up, and being able to slide through the different types of ATP and ADP systems and try to manipulate that. So I got very good at really thinking about everything in a
Mhm.
way that I could put together a workout that I could take advantage of two different energy systems in the same workout. And then running cross country as well, I was getting plenty of aerobic work running up and down those hills.
Hmm.
In 1978, when I moved to California, remember Henry Rono?
Yes.
Yeah.
Discipline.
He ran those
Hmm.
field
Hmm.
goal records in the 3,000, the steeplechase, the 5 and the 10. He was my roommate, and we lived right on a golf course. We had a
Oh, man.
2.8 mile course, and we had a 4.1 mile course. But the thing that I got out of him, and there was two other guys, a guy named Kip Bay and Billy Concella was also our roommate. We recruited him in from Kenya and brought him to come to high school in California. So I used to run with these Kenyan boys in the morning at 6 o'clock. And, the workout that really got me, that I really, really learned about running and breathing and physiology, was running an hour with Henry Rono when he was at his peak. And they would leave me going downhill, but they like to take their time and chug, chug, chug uphill. And so
Hmm.
they would run away going downhill, and I would try to keep up with them. And then I had to learn about breathing. But going uphill, I would always catch those guys. And then I say, oh man, I'm at the top of the hill. They're only 30 yards in front of me. We run for an hour. Sometimes they'd be 50 yards ahead. Sometimes they'd be 100. Sometimes I'd catch up, they'd be 30. And then when I catch them at the end, then they're going downhill. I burn out trying to catch them going uphill because that's when I could. Then I learned about breathing. And so going downhill when they accelerated, I learned how to breathe and stay with them.
Hmm.
So we used to run about 10 miles in an hour. We were doing 6-minute miles,
Wow.
five,
Yeah.
6-minute miles. I think the one time we finished our course, it was 6 miles in like 58 minutes, up and down a whole lot of hills in grass. So I was in excellent condition. So by having that base, I could do the thousands, the 600s, the 800s. Go out there and do 1,000 and 2 500s and 2 300s, and then come back the next day and do 1,000 and 4 300s. Thousands were like whatever we did first. That first run was always just to warm up, never really hard. And then by the end of the week, you're doing 500, 2 300s, and a couple of 150s. So I was always always exercise each of those physiological systems all week long. And when I went to Europe and started running professionally in the summer, I could still run in September, October, because after I run in Zurich and I might have an 8 or 10 day window, I get on the track and run a couple of thousands, some 600s, and keep that going all the time. So I always stayed in condition. I never let my condition wane. So even in September, October, I'm still running 47s in Europe, going over there for the weekend from school because I just had.
Edwin, it's obvious, it's very clear to me that two things you said earlier in this conversation. You didn't mind training and being self-motivated. I mean, that's just, to me, that kind of sums up everything you did.
And the
Mhm.
thing that I really enjoyed about track is that, going from a 47.5 to a 46.1, you see that kind of 1.4 seconds, differential in a matter of months, like from one season to the next. I got addicted to knocking off 2 or 3 tenths of a second here, 2 or 3 tenths of a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My whole training program was because I logged everything. I knew exactly what I did the year before, and then I could say, okay, I ran this 500 in 61 or 62. I did 3 or 4 of those. I'm going to drop down a second and knock a second off of what I'm doing in training, try to get in better shape. So I was able to follow the training and know exactly what I ran to the 10th of a second, for 2 years before, and then program the training, set the time targets, set the rest interval, and do all that. Just thinking if I can make a small improvement, it's going to be in this area.
So Edwin, we have a question in the chat. What was your diet like during your training period, or diet period?
Uh, I was working out 2 3 times a day at my peak. I was eating like 5,000, eating or drinking 5,000 calories a day. So it wasn't even a diet. It was just like directed eating. Just like a lot of these bodybuilder types, they talk about how much protein you have to eat. I was at a disadvantage going to Morehouse because the food was not really that great in the cafeterias.
Mm.
Once once I
In the
got
South,
it was,
No, hey,
we didn't have, we
cafeteria is
didn't
different, Gerald, in the
we
South.
didn't have any girls to feed, so we got trashed on the food. I even went
Mm.
after the Olympics in '76. I went to a correctional facility and in Dayton, Ohio, and had lunch over there after the Olympics. The city brought me in and all that. I said, "Damn, they're eating better than we are at Morehouse." And I had to start cooking. I started out with a hot plate and a little refrigerator in the room. Then when I got my first apartment, because my father, when he was in the military, he was in the engineering corps. He was a part-time chef. When they went over on the boat and everything, all my brothers and I, we learned how to cook everything. You know, between my dad and my mom, we even had assigned cooking days where we'd have to cook breakfast for the whole family and all that kind of stuff. So once I had my first apartment, then I was free, and mostly a lot of vegetables, a lot of things that people don't eat, a lot of vegetables. Definitely meat. You have to eat protein and whatnot, but it was more organic for me. I didn't eat a whole lot of meat, and to this day, I don't. I still eat the same way that I did when I was training in my professional career, when I really had a full kitchen, had a house, all that, and I was really responsible for my own food intake. Even when I was married, I had to have certain things exactly the way that I wanted them, and I used to cook a lot. I cook every day. If I don't cook, I don't eat to this day.
that's true.
Mm.
And I've got a garden, everything organic, and I eat all the weird things that people don't eat: the leeks and the turnips and the beets and the cauliflower and all these different fruits and vegetables where you get all the minerals. Everything's
Right.
really fresh. I get all organic food, usually halal. I go to the halal market, the Muslim market, because of the way that they slaughter their chicken and lamb and fish and the way that they prep it. So I'm very particular on food, on what I buy. If you look at my refrigerator, and you're hungry, you're not going to see a lot. You're not going to see a lot. It won't jump out at you. No, I don't drink anything out of bottles and cans unless it's fresh juice. I make my juices every day, make my potions and tonics and ginger and teas and lemon juice with salt and honey in it. I make my own stuff all the time. In fact, I've got some beet juice right here in front of me that I finished out today. And my metabolism is very efficient. I mean, it's like one meal in, one meal out. So when I finished in 1988, my running weight back then was like 179, 183, 184. I'm like 184, 185 right now, taking cup, lifting the weights. And so I weaned myself off the 5,000 calories. Took me 2 years to do that. Although I quit in 88, I did bobsled in 90, 89, 90, 90, 91, 92. So I was still training, but I didn't need the 5,000 calories. And some of it I had to drink. I had this solution from NASA that they gave to astronauts and fighter pilots and whatnot in case they got shot down. I had some of that. So I used to have 1,000 calories in a quart of a mixed drink that was, highly researched. My physical therapist found. So I weaned myself off of all that, and I didn't want to be, 220, at my age. I was really because I like to work out, like to run. I really didn't want to gain weight because I've seen a lot of professional football players. They quit 2-3 years later. They put on 50, 60 pounds. And so I
So,
thought that was a danger to me because I've got heart disease and diabetes in my family on both sides, mother and father. So I was very, very careful. And I just knew too much to not, you know. So
Edwin,
I eat as much as I want, anything I want, essentially.
that's good. Edwin, I got a question about your so you're training and you train so hard. What was your recovery like? What kind of things did you do for recovery? I know you got to take care of your body, so you train one way, then you got to recover the next.
I had a physical therapist when I went to California, a guy named Ken Yoshino, and he had 2 or 3 offices and whatnot. And I used to go by there He introduced me to the ice baths, which was the most important recovery device, the most simple one that I ever had. We also did a lot of things like Cybex machine, muscle testing. He had all the electronics, PNF stretching, plyometrics was really just going there then. So, for example, I might train hard on a Monday morning. Monday morning. I was on the track at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. I didn't waste time. I had to get out there first thing before it got hot. And I'm sitting at the coastline in California. It doesn't really get hot, but when the sun comes up, it's hot. And I can see the difference from my heart monitor. I could see the difference in my heartbeat and my respiration and everything just from having same temperature, a cloudy day versus a sunny day. I could see that in my heartbeat and see the difference. So I would work out, do a heavy workout on Monday morning, maybe cross country during cross country season. Go to the gym in the middle of the day, do another cross country session at the beach, and then go to physical therapy. If I was on the track, I might do in peak season. I would work out hard on Monday morning, go to the gym midday, lift weights, go to physical therapy, work out again hard on Tuesday morning, probably go to the beach in the evening. Physical therapy was every day. And then I would not work out again until like Wednesday, late Wednesday, where I do another hard cross country run. Then I would hit the track again on Thursday. So I knew how to get like 36 hours of rest and still be active by working out in the morning and then the following evening. And I really put that to work when I went up to Finland for 6 weeks and trained up there. I had an injury, and I would work out at like 8 o'clock, and the sun comes up at like 2 o'clock in the morning over there. And get up, work out at like 7 o'clock in the morning, hard, get a massage, lift weights in the afternoon, take a nap, and work out at 10 o'clock at night. Again, a full workout, you know. And then the next day, I would do the reverse. I wouldn't work out in the morning, run some cross country, but then I would have the hard workout the next evening, or even if it was like Wednesday morning. So then you're working out every day hard, but you're getting the maximum amount of rest because you're using your day properly. So I was very good at programming my workouts. I never got injured. And that ice, I learned that those ice baths just took away all the sensation of swelling, micro tears. I just felt fantastic. I was always good the next day with ice. Okay. 20 minutes, 50 degrees. So a total all the way to 20 minutes, and that just takes away. And then get stretched out right after that with PNF stretch, full stretch. You would think you would be tight, but I was the most flexible after getting out of the ice bath. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. What was your resting heart rate? Do you recall?
I think back then when I was
pretty low.
I think I've seen as low as like 37 to 45.
Wow.
Getting up in the morning. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. 1 beat per second. Definitely less than 2. Mm-hmm. I think I was checking my blood pressure and heart rate last week. I think I was 118 over 75, and my heartbeat was like 65.
Ooh.
Yeah, because I drink all those concoctions and everything, nitric oxide and beet juice and ginger and turmeric and garlic with honey. Marinated in honey. I do everything I can.
Yeah.
Everything I can to,
One other thing, Edwin, you was talking about the food at Morehouse, it was trash because you guys didn't have girls. We had girls at North Carolina College, and the food was still the same way.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was a HBCU thing back then. Yeah. And our training table was we just got extra of what everybody else was getting.
Well, see, when we came in from practice, because we had to carpool, we couldn't start until 4 when guys got out of class. Go to the track. It might be 30, 40 minutes to get out there, do the workout, get back. The cafeteria theoretically closed at 6. We might not get back till 6:37. And so at first there was no food whatsoever. And then our coach went in and cut a deal with the people there in the athletic department. So we had, pretty fresh food at 6:30. They always had something fresh for, 20 guys at the end of the day. But we had to fight for that.
Yeah.
I remember the first meal I ever had at Morehouse. I can tell you. It was we called them red dye #2 hot dogs, cold collard greens, and those mashed potatoes with that yellow gravy on it.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Did you how many meals did you have on Sunday?
One. Let's see.
You
They
had
had
breakfast and then you had like a
dinner.
dinner
Afternoon
was like
yeah.
was like in the afternoon, like right?
After,
Yeah, that was
we
the
had
same way at
food
Central. Then they give us a little paper bag with a bologna sandwich or sometimes just a cheese sandwich and a piece of fruit to take back to the dormitory.
No. We had Robert 12X, the Muslim guy that had the truck selling those fish sandwiches and cheese steaks and everything. Bean pies and all that. If you had some money, he could hook up for a cup for $1.75. But other than that, it was kind of grim. But I learned a lot about diet. And back then, I'm surprised that we even survived because we didn't go out to the track with even water bottles. Nothing. We were taking salt tablets back then. But no one was passing out. I don't remember guys passing out and having all these issues the way that they do now. But we didn't even hydrate. We went to the water fountain a couple of times during the practice.
When either athletically or non-athletically, what do you feel or what do you think is your greatest accomplishment in your career?
I think just making it to become a world-class athlete. Due to coming out of a high school unrecruited, going to a college with no track, jumping fences for all those years, and maintaining that kind of record despite everything. But I was in the right atmosphere, being at a HBCU, external pressure. Even if I had been good enough to go to Ohio State because I was a state school, or UCLA, a lot of the major predominantly white schools, you couldn't go there anyway. They didn't want us around. And they might have a scholarship for 2 or 3, kids for the track team, basketball team. You remember how it was. Because they were all segregated. Even if I'd gone to the best school and had a great coach, no one would ever know who I am if I would have gone to any school other than Morehouse. I was just in that right space at the right time and around the right type of guys. I came out of high school. I was the smartest kid in the class. Definitely the smartest black kid who was doing science and math and all that. But even the Jewish kids and all the other white kids, I was just as smart as them. Shit, I got to Morehouse, man. I'm like in fourth place diving for the Tate 4C. I said, damn. That first semester was rough. I was playing it easy, like, oh, I know this stuff. Man, the curve was so high, Yeah. But what should have been a B was like a C plus. I had to redirect my whole game. And Sam Jackson once said, he said the thing about going to a HBCU, he said you're never going to get a D or an F because you're black. You're never going to get an F because you're black. So that goes in the picture. So everybody steps up their game. That's what great students. You don't have an excuse. And you're being incentivized, and people are nurturing you and helping you out and showing you.
That's right.
Amen.
I was a recipient of that. Yeah.
I know we got a few listeners on. I know one in particular, Todd. She's listening in. I was wondering if we can get her in to ask a question or two, or maybe put it in the chat.
Yeah, get one from D. I've seen her name on the screen.
Okay, D, your mic's open.
Okay, let me see.
You're talking. You're good.
You can hear me? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I am just fascinated listening to this story. I mean, Dr. Walker, as you know, we very close. I called him my uncle.
Yeah.
And I just wish that I was still coaching now because some of the things that you said make so much sense. And Dr. Walker would give me workouts everywhere that I would coach. He would come and spend 2 days with me and
Yeah.
walk around the track, and I'd walk behind him. If sweat came off of him, I'd catch it, because
Yeah.
he was just a master. But listening to the scientific and the things that you're saying, Edwin, is just fascinating to me. I'm just sitting here saying, wow, wow, wow. I think the last time I actually saw you was probably at the, what do they call it, the sports festival they used to have in Colorado Springs.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I actually have a picture of you hurling there. Um, we had Mamie Rollins and Barbara Jacket
Yeah.
and myself
Yeah.
and on the women's side, and so I remember that. So you may not remember me, but I definitely remember you.
Yeah. 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 And that was when Calvin Smith and Evelyn ran
Yep,
for the records.
yep,
Right.
yeah.
And I ran 47.9 and I thought my lungs were on fire. I thought
I
I
have a picture of that.
lung transplant up there.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely have a picture of you hurtling somewhere.
Hmm.
So, we didn't have these cameras
Yeah.
where, you could take a picture and keep it. So I would have to look for it. But no, I've just been truly fascinated and enjoying this conversation. And my youngest stepson is actually a Morehouse man.
Okay.
And right now he's the lead Secret Service for the White House.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah,
Right.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
there's a guy I have to mention. He's 93 years old now, and some of you probably know who he is. Dick Hill. It was down at Southern University.
Yeah.
I,
Kill.
I spent some time with Dick a couple of weeks ago in Dallas because I know his son Richie. He's doing great, and he was a PhD in kinesiology as well as Dr. Walker.
Right.
And those are the only two guys that really even made sense to me because I could think we thought on the same level about biomechanics and motion and how
Hmm.
to minimize motion and maximize effort. But Dick gave me a lot of really, really good workouts, and used to come out to my workouts and work with me one on one. So I have to give a shout out to him. He's 93
Hmm.
years old. He's still
Wow.
sprawling.
Still kicking.
He's still
That's
kicking.
good. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is really good
Yeah.
to hear. That's a good guy.
Yeah.
That's a name I haven't heard in a long, long
He
time.
coached
But
Willie Davenport and Rodney Milburn.
Willie
Hmm.
Davenport, yeah.
Ship.
Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Wow.
this is Norm. I have one more question. You've done a lot of work with USADA and WADA and stuff, but what do you think is the state of PED use today?
I think
Looking at looking at some of the performances that have taken place.
it's hard to evaluate on performances. There's the shoes and the tracks have a lot to do with the performances today.
Mm-hmm.
You got guys running 9.8s and 9.9s the first meet of the damn year. And
Mm-hmm.
you look at all the great people that barely broke 10 flat who were outstanding sprinters.
Right.
Outstanding sprinters. So, when they built that track in Tokyo and for the Tokyo Olympics, the IAAF hired Mondo to build a track, and the instructions were, we want this track along with the shoes that we're going to certify going forward. We want the track to be able to produce times that are 2% better across the board, and that's what they did. And the track is now like 3 layers. They've got on that particular track. There's an article in the New York Times. If you put in Tokyo track, Olympic track, in the New York Times in 2021, I think it is. There's an article of the designer of the track talking about all the physics and physics that they put into the track. 3 layers. One layer has little pebbles that have filled with nitrogen. So it's a springy layer, a hard layer, then a springy layer, then another hard layer on top. And so they've designed those, and that in combination with the carbon fiber plates I mean, if you've ever seen those things and what kind of position it puts your foot in, so that when you get tired, your calves don't have to do the work to keep you up on your toes because the plate is back. And so they say that that's worth 2%, and they confirmed that after the Olympic Games, everyone was running faster. I forget who it was in the semifinals. I think it was Sydney. McLaughlin. I think she ran like a 51 high or something in the semifinals, and she was like walking, and she up the clock and said, "What the heck?" And so, my time to 47:02 and take off 2%, that's 46:08. That's it.
Wow.
So, and I know that I could have run faster. I was predicting to run 46 flat on those soft tracks that we had. So, I definitely could have run 45. I knew that I could run in the 45s back in '77. It's in Track and Field News, one of those articles that they did on me. I just knew that the event could go that. The technology now, the shoes, is why you see all these fast times. Yeah.
That's interesting. But it makes sense.
Yeah. Look at the
Makes
article,
sense.
New York Times, Tokyo Olympic track, and you'll probably be able to pull it up. And the guy explains the whole process and the fact that they told him to design a track that was going to be 2% faster across the board. That's what they did.
Wow.
They did.
Edwin, I got a question for you. Go ahead, Nora. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Ruck. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. Edwin, listening to you has been amazing, just like Dee said. Who was your toughest athlete when you were running? Who was the toughest one that you ever competed against? Is there anybody that stood out that you knew you had to be ready?
I was ready for all of them all the time.
Okay. All right. No, I like that answer.
Yeah, all the time. Because every time I ran, it was potentially someone else's Olympic final. Like every time. Every time I hit the track, it was someone wanted it to be their Olympic day. It took 10 years for Danny Harris to track me down. He caught me on a day when I was sick and won by about a half a meter. But those guys, when they were out there, they were hoping that I made a mistake of any kind. And they were ready. And they used to take turns running at me. I'd run Danny Harris one on Tuesday and Andre Phillips on Friday, and Gerald on Sunday. So they just I had to be ready each and every time, and I was. I took them very seriously. I knew what they were capable of doing. I knew what kind of times they were running. I knew what, to some extent, what kind of training, who their coaches were, and whatnot. So I knew everything I could find out. I knew about them, and I used that to my advantage. Even to be able to schedule my races when I was going to run and how much I needed to rest between running against, because we were running 3-4 times a week sometimes.
Yeah.
We were running 3. It's not like it is now. Run every 2 weeks.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
So out of curiosity, if you had to make your Mount Rushmore of track, who would be on that one?
Good question.
Wow.
That's a real difficult question, but I would put some of the guys on there. I would have Lee Evans up there, for example. Because it took so long to break their record. Those two would definitely be up there. Jesse Owens, just because of the sheer. I tend to go old school. I'm not really,
Yeah, you good. That's fine.
Enthused about a lot of the young people. I would put Carl in there for the long jump. Evelyn Ashford for the types of races and the people that she was running with and breaking the world record during her time. And then there's some guys like Rayford Johnson, C.K. Yang, what they did back in those days. Rod Milburn was outstanding. Bob Seagram was outstanding in the triple, out order in the shot put.
Hey, Coach Tate, who's my man down in Florida? Who's the guy down in Florida you guys always talked about?
Bob Hayes.
Bob Hayes. Okay.
Bob Hayes.
Yeah.
I would put him in
what,
there.
What was his nickname,
Jim
Coach?
Hine. Bullet.
Crow. Crow.
Yeah.
Hines,
Pigeon-toed the crow.
Jim Hines. It took them so long to break that record.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That-
yeah,
That's a great class there that you named. That's
yeah.
yeah.
He left off one person,
Who's
Edwin
that?
Moses.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, Coach Tate.
Edwin Moses.
yeah,
Coach Tate,
Well, yes, without a doubt.
Coach Tate, Coach Tate, I got to let you know that your teammate Marco was online. He's listening to Marco Coleman.
Oh, Morocco. Okay.
Morocco Coleman.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, he's
I
listening
sent him
in.
I sent him the link. I see Terry's on there also.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Terry Amos. Yeah. Oh, George sent me a message. That was him that called and interrupted the broadcast for a minute. His internet went out. He couldn't get on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I gave him the link too
Yeah.
to just click right on it. Yeah.
He said they were trying to fix it, but yeah, he sent a message.
Oh wow.
Guess he wanted to be on.
I want to.
Edwin, in response to the question that Gerald asked, about 2 weeks ago, I saw a YouTube video with Carl Lewis and Usain Bolt, and they were talking about who were their top 5 athletes. And I can't remember who the 5 were for each of them, but I did remember this. You were on the list for both of those guys
yeah.
as one of the finest athletes. So I thought that was very, very impressive.
Both would
Yeah.
definitely be up just on the sheer, what he's been able to accomplish multiple times.
Yes, yeah. But I just wanted to share that with you. And I forgot where I saw it.
I saw the one that Carl's. I saw the one that Carl. I saw both of those. They came a couple of weeks ago. They
Yeah,
kind of popped up on someone's channel. Yeah, I saw both of those.
and that's we tip our hat to you, man.
Thank you.
And what you've done. Quick question: did you ever run at the Penn Relay?
Yeah, I did twice.
Mm-hmm.
I ran 76 and 70.
70s.
I think.
Yeah,
70,
I saw both
Oh,
of those races you ran there.
76 and 77.
okay.
I would be remiss if I would not ask our producer, Princess, to come in and ask a question or two before we close out. Princess, you got anything you want to ask?
No, this has been just awesome and informative. Maybe what dorm did you stay in on Morehouse's campus?
First year,
You stayed
Hubert
in,
Hall.
okay, Hubert Hall. Okay.
Yeah, it's right by the wall behind the gym.
Mm-hmm.
My second year, I stayed in Du Bois, and that was brand new. And then my
Okay.
third year, I stayed over at ITC. I had a dorm at over at ITC. Yeah.
Okay. We missed each other. I was a little bit behind you,
Yeah.
but your name was still there, and we as Spelman and Morehouse, we would get together when you ran and watch it on the big jumbo or whatever we thought then. We thought that was a big TV, but it wasn't. It wasn't a flat screen, but we could do that. So flat screen in the 80s. So, but
It wasn't a flat screen. It was a big old box back then.
yes, yes, sir. Still with the rabbit ears too. Back then. But thank you for taking the time to do this for us and with us. I can't wait to go listen to it again. It'll be on Spotify and iHeartRadio tomorrow. But thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we'll do it. We'll go in this order. We'll let Coach Rucker have final thought. And we'll go this way. Edwin, anything that you want to say to our listeners, young listeners, just to encourage them, just any words of wisdom that you may have that you want to share at this time.
I think track and field is kind of having a rejuvenation in the youth athletics right now. These kids are really running some blistering times because the training techniques have been passed down like 3-4 generations. And so kids who are like 8, 9, 10 years old, they're learning about technical, about the form and their arms and their legs. They've got shoes. They're doing conditioning and lifting weights and interval training. So, for the kids out there, I think it's just really a great time to be running track.
Mm-hmm.
You got 14-year-old girls running 52s in the quarter, 16-year-old boys running 45s.
Yeah, really. I'm
Eight-year-old
glad
girl,
I'm retired.
8-year-old girl running 56 quarters, stuff like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, they got too fast for me.
Yeah, it's crazy. I
Yeah.
just hope that they don't get burned out, because you as a coach,
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
put too much.
Sometimes they start so young and have success and then they just kind of burn out.
They
But
hate it.
hopefully they won't do that now. And
I
it's
think we lost D
I'm
to
loving it.
a
All
phone
right,
call.
very good.
We'll go
Edwin, if you can, I have
Coach
my
Rucker, and then
co-host from
I'll
morning
end this.
shows or the other nights.
Okay,
See if I
it's
can,
been
Tim, if you can
an
open your
amazing
mic
evening.
and ask
I've
a
learned
question
a lot,
of
and
Edwin.
I'd just like to
Tim
compliment
Moore.
on, Edwin. He said they didn't have a track when he was there.
Okay.
Well,
Did I
Morehouse
lose
has a
everybody?
state-of-the-art track now because of Edwin.
All right. All right.
Edwin, if you had a chance to interview someone, who would you like to interview?
If I had to interview someone,
Yeah, anyone, any sport, any activity. Oh, let's go to track. We're talking about track. What track athlete would you like to interview if you had the opportunity?
uh, I would want to interview my predecessor, John Akibor. I was very close to him. He's passed away now, but
Yeah.
we did interviews on German TV and German radio before, where we were just like a fireside chat and talking back and forth, because he was the world record holder before me. You know, I wish he was here to be able to speak to him. To be honest with you.
Okay.
Thank-
And before I do close out, I know there's a documentary coming out. Are you able to speak on that at all, or give any details about that forthcoming?
The documentary premiered in 2024 at Morehouse. It's called Moses 13 Steps, done by a German film company, and they did an outstanding job. I made a deal with them because I didn't have to. They had financing. They wanted to do the film. They produced documentaries, all kinds of documentaries, movies, and so they put movie guys on the documentary, guys who shoot film. And so it really starts with me as a young kid. I found 12 canisters of 8 millimeter film that my father had taken back in the 60s. That was at the beginning of the film. And I found a bunch of people, some of you would never expect to be in my film, to narrate and talk about me and tell my story for me. And that includes Spike Lee, who was my classmate at Morehouse. Sam Jackson was at Morehouse. He talks about me. Tommy Smith has a major part in the film because I was very close to him, starting in '76, which was only 8 years after the '68 Olympics. So that was all fresh and raw.
Mm-hmm.
Neil deGrasse Tyson is in the film. Danny Harris, Bob Kersey, Andre Phillips, Lonnie Bunch, who is the secretary of the Smithsonian right now. He's the guy who raised the funds and put the African American Museum together. He's in the film. My son is in the film. Anita DeFrance is in the film. Donna De Verona is in the film. So they're all telling my story for me. And so it's an hour, 100 minutes. Hasn't been distributed yet. The film was finished in early 2024, and we didn't rush to get it out for the Paris Olympics, but we've been in 13 film festivals. We won awards in 10 of the 13 film festivals all over the world. But we still are waiting for a distribution deal. The whole media is kind of funny right now with everything that's going on with the media and the press, and any kind of content that's African American. Sometimes you can get it on. I mean, if I was Stevie Wonder documentary or Michael Jackson, those kind of things get on. But mine is very. The narrative is very true, very real, and it tells an African American family story, an academic story, a great sports story, and and the story talks about what was going on when I was a kid from 10, 11 years old in the 1960s. It talks about what was going on, the Vietnam War, Mexico City, the assassinations of Robert Kennedy, John Kennedy, Malcolm X, Dr. Martin Luther King. All that is contained in the film because that's what I saw and that's what I experienced, and those are the things that were really elements that put me where I was going to be at Morehouse, and go from a nerd to an Olympic champion in 3 years. So all that's contained in the film. It's called Moses 13 Steps, and we're just waiting on a distribution deal. We've got 2 years from now. The Olympics is 2 years away, and so we're just patiently waiting to make a deal.
Mhm.
So, Princess, did you say this was going to stay up for a while so people who didn't get a chance to hear it can go back and listen to it?
I think I don't know.
So,
I don't know. She may be off.
Yeah. Does
Yeah.
anybody know?
You know what? A lot of people got off. I think they thought it was going to end at 9. Yeah, because there were a lot of people. Yeah, I don't see Prince's name at the bottom
Yeah. So
either.
there's lightning. I apologize. Princess just called me. There's lightning down in Florida, and we
Oh,
lost a lot of
there's a
people on
lot
the.
of people on
She
this.
does apologize.
Okay.
But I think what we're going to probably end up doing now is, and she can't get back on for some reason, so she lost the recording at this point. But maybe at a later date, Edwin, we can continue this. But first of all, I want to say thank you for taking our offer and being on our podcast. And we've learned a lot today or tonight, and we look forward to seeing that documentary when it does land. But again, it's a pleasure, again, seeing you twice from once I was a kid, now as adults. It's always, this is a great, brings it back home. I have to say this one young kid, Coach Rucker, coached him. His name is Mike Brown. He lives in the Atlanta area, and he said he's run into you. He's been in your space a few times. He ran the 400 hurdles at Villanova, and he would have loved to pick your brain. But he said maybe every time he sees you in Atlanta, you're bombarded with people, so he never had to get a chance to say hi. Maybe you guys would get the opportunity. But
Yeah,
once again, thank you so much. We'll have to have you back on, and just let us know. This was a pleasure. This was a gem. This is one of my favorites. And then we know Track and Field never has some good sports radio. I'm Gerald Richardson, Fred Rucker, my side wing, and Norm Tate, the emeritus Norm, signing off and saying good night, everyone. Have a wonderful night.
Good night. Right. Good night, Edwin.
Okay.
Good night, everybody, and thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye. Yeah, I was going to holler at you. I see you around.
How you doing?
You going to be at the homecoming? Morehouse home?
Oh, definitely.
I'll see you out there.
I see you at the next track meet, too.
Say again?
I'll see you at the next track meet.
Yeah, I'm starting to work on that now. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Enjoyed it, man. It's great.
Really enjoyed it. Thank you, guys.
All right. Everyone have a good night.
Good night.
You too.
Good night.
Mm-hmm. Good night. That was great.
Make the call, Fred.